Two most important days in your life are the day you're born and the day you find out why. Welcome to the Class Bullock Show. I'm Robert Bullock. I'm a former English teacher, AP Lang teacher, and so on and so forth. And I'm here today to share some thought-provoking quotes with you and kind of break them down a little bit, and let's see if they have anything to do with our lives today. What can we say about it? What can we do with that? Now, I do have some notes here, so forgive me for reading some of my notes, but I've got to do that to remind myself of what I'm supposed to be doing here. So I want to say, first of all, if at the end of this thing you say, well, I kind of like this, I'd like to have some more of it, then, like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff, but especially send a comment, and the algorithm loves that, and it helps other people find us. If you want to email me sometime with something you want to talk about, a quote you have, or something you'd like me to address, you can do that at classbullockshow@gmail.com. All right, so let's look at this quote here. The two most important days in your life are when you're born and the day you find out why. And I said Mark Twain is the one who said it. Mark Twain is not the one who said it. But that's what you see everywhere. If you see it on social media, TikTok or YouTube or anywhere like that, people post that all the time. And when they post it, they always put Mark Twain on there, but there's a society or whatever, Mark Twain Society, something like that, that traces about all these quotes that are attributed to him. He didn't actually say it. Actually, the first written record that we have of anybody using this quote or saying this, and it's written down and recorded, was a preacher in New York. And let's see, what was his name? Our Minister Ernest Campbell in New York City. He said it in a sermon that was printed in a pamphlet. They used to do that back in the old days and pass them out, It's printed in a sermon in 1970, and even Campbell prefaced it by saying, "It has been said." So we don't really know where the quote came from, but it's a good one. I think it has a good sentiment behind it. Something that we like to discuss is our why, our purpose in life. What is my purpose? What is my purpose? That's something that everybody, I think, questions at some point. Is what is your why? What is your purpose in life? So having said that, let's talk about, we've talked about who the speaker is. I'm not going to give you a big long drawn-out lesson on soap, but I am going to talk about the speaker and the occasion. So I told you who the speaker is. The occasion was in the church. It was a sermon in New York City. So what we really want to talk about is what the quote means and why do people post it all the time. It sounds kind of cool. So who are the people who need to hear this quote? Me, you, anybody else? Let's talk about it. I got 4 groups of people I think need to hear this quote. I'll run through them quickly. Group 1. That's the people that feel like it's important for people to know their why. And I think that's true. I think it's important that we kind of know why we're here, or at least we feel like we know why we're here most of the time. It's important. Not imperative, but it is important. So another group of people, they want to say, I know, they say it to the rest of the world because they want to say to the world, I know my purpose. I know my why. That makes me special. Why don't you know yours? It's another way of saying, I'm better than you. That's some of the social media stuff. Another group of people, group 3, is so they can sell you courses and books and all that kind of stuff on social media to help you learn what your purpose is, what your why is. You can buy training courses and books and all that stuff, how to know your why and how to know your purpose in life and all that kind of stuff. So those people like to quote it. And finally, and this kind of connects, I don't know, it might be a stretch, I don't know, to the preacher. Why would preachers say that? Why would cult leaders say that? Why would religious leaders say that? Well, if they can convince you that your why, your purpose is to serve them or their purpose, they've kind of got you right where they want you. You're easy to manipulate. I hope you're not in that group, but it's another group that, kind of wants to mess with you. Share that quote. Now, I'm mostly group 1. Okay. I'm going to share it because I think it's important that people examine their own lives and, kind of figure out their own why, figure it out for themselves. Why am I here? Blah, blah, blah. I don't know. But one of the ways that you might be able to get closer to figuring out what your why actually is to ask yourself some questions. Okay? Now, I've got some questions here. And before I get into those questions, I'm going to tell you what doesn't work for most of us. Most of us are never going to have what I call a Damascus Road experience. The Apostle Paul getting, Paul getting struck down on the Damascus road to Damascus. Most of us are not going to get hit in the head, figuratively hit in the head, or literally, I guess, and all of a sudden know our purpose in life. Most of us aren't going to do that, But I will say that for me, at least, I have a pretty good idea of what my purpose in life is. And, we might get to that later on. But I've got a pretty good idea. And the fact that I'm here sharing this with you, that should give you a clue what I believe my purpose is. Okay. But I didn't have a Damascus Road experience. I never had, I've had experiences like that, but not to tell me what my purpose in life is, what my why is. For other reasons, which maybe I'll get to at some point in another video or audio or whatever podcast. But it is a journey, I think, because your why might change over your lifetime. As a matter of fact, it probably will, or at least mine has. And that's the only thing I've got to go by. I know other people who have also experienced similar things. It was a process. So how do you go about the process of figuring out exactly what your why is? I said it's a journey. It's a couple questions to ask yourself. So what are the questions? I've got a couple of questions here. And I'm going to say that the first question is, you need to ask yourself, what comes natural to me? What challenges do I really want to help other people with? Another question is, what activities make me like myself? What do I do that makes me like myself? So that's something that you could do. For me, it's teaching. I've been a teacher for a couple of decades. Before that, I was a minister in a church. I like helping people. It makes me feel good about myself to know that what I'm doing is helping people. So is that my why? Was I put here to help other people? Is that what I'm going to call my purpose for life? Is to help other people? Yeah, it is. But I didn't arrive at that just instantly. As a matter of fact, helping other people by way of ministry or by way of teaching was not easy for me in the beginning. It got a little easier as I went through it, and I learned a little bit more about how to do it. But it wasn't really just like, oh, this is my purpose. I woke up one day and said, this is what God has called me to. For me, it wasn't like that. For some people, it is. For me, it wasn't. So, you can get a pretty good idea of what your why is just by asking those two questions. Now, what you got to look out for, okay? You got to look out for people who try to manipulate you. For other people who try to tell you what your purpose is. They say, well, obviously your purpose is this in life. You're good at this, so that must be your purpose in life. And it can be. It can be. I know people who are talented in many other ways. I know a wide range of people. I've had a lot of experiences in my life. I know people who can sing, who can play instruments, and they really bring a lot of joy to people through their song and through their music and all that kind of stuff. I have a daughter who is a stand-up comic, stand-up comedian. And, she loves doing it, and she loves hearing other people, say, oh, you did a good job. But what really drives her is she says, look, she told me, she said, Dad, when I walk up on that stage and I get those people laughing and having a good time, they forget all about their troubles. They forget all about all the crap that's going on in their life. They're just having a good time, and the stress is gone for a little while. And she said, yeah, I love it when they laugh. I love it. It makes me feel good that they like me, that they like what I'm doing. That's good for me. It's good for my ego. It's good for my heart. But what really, really drives me in the end is knowing that I have a purpose in my comedy. It is making people laugh, but deeper than that, it's helping them forget about the crap that's going on in their lives. So, what's your why? I don't know. What if you don't know what your why is? Have you thought about that? You may have come to this video. You may have done a search about figuring out your purpose or something. That's a big item that's searched a lot. It's a big question that people have. It's a question that I had hundreds of times over the years from my students. They'd say, well, Mr. Bullock, I just don't know why I'm here. I don't know why God put me here. I don't know what my purpose is for being here. And they're teenagers. You may be a teenager. You may be one of these people that knew from your teen years on exactly what your purpose was, your calling, your why, and that's worked for you, and that's great. That's fine. I'm talking to the people who don't know, who are struggling with it. And like these teenagers I used to talk to all the time, they felt like they needed to know because they'd heard it, over and over and over. You got to know your purpose. You got to know your calling. You got to know your why, and all this kind of stuff. And when somebody's trying to force you into something like that, making, a decision, I don't know if it's really a decision or whatever, but when somebody's trying to force you into something like that, be careful. Be careful. You'll know. You'll understand. And let me tell you something. It may not be this big thing that you want it to be. Yeah, it may not be. Maybe you already know. Maybe you're in middle age or you're getting older. You already know. You kind of know in the back of your mind, that your purpose is doing this or doing that. Because it makes you feel good to do it. It makes you happy when you're doing that. It doesn't have to be something that gets you applause or accolades of any kind. If you are happy with yourself, whatever you're doing, you found your why. And that's what you've got to concentrate on. That's what you got to stay focused on. Do what works for you. I've heard some people say, well, your purpose in life is to be happy. I don't really get that. That just doesn't register with me. I don't know how being happy can be my purpose. It just don't register. I can't grasp that. However, I can grasp that doing things that make you happy, those things could be your purpose. That could be your why. I don't know. Why are we here? I don't know. I kind of believe in there's some higher power. There's something out there. There's something out there. And, what that has to do with it, I don't know. I just think, yeah, well, maybe there is a purpose. But what is my purpose and what is yours? That's up to you to have to figure out. Whatever you figure out, whatever you're dealing with, whatever you're struggling with, whatever you're trying to go through, asking yourself these questions, wondering why you don't know your why, whatever it is, it's okay. It's okay. I lived a lot of years of my life without really knowing what my purpose was or why I was here. I was so wrapped up in my own life and my own struggles. As a young man, I had a lot to deal with parents and all that kind of stuff. I really had no idea. I even got to the point one time, that maybe I'm saying too much here. But anyway, I got to the point one time that I was upset, you know, as a teenager, and I asked my parents, I said, why did you even have me anyway? Yeah, well, I don't think I ever got a clear answer on that, but whatever. But I really struggled for years, years and years of knowing, why am I even here? And, you know, sometimes I still don't know why I'm here, but I figure, what the hey, here I am. I might as well make the best of it. I might as well do something that helps other folks, because I feel good about myself when I'm helping other people. So for me, that's my why. You know, just simple. It's not some big extravagant thing. I'm never going to be rich and famous and all that kind of stuff, and I'm okay with that. I used to not be okay with that, but I'm okay with that now. So if I can make somebody happy, if I can help somebody figure out how to feel better about themselves, and it's real, it's rooted in reality, it's what's going on in their heart. It's not some feel-good mumbo jumbo being pumped into their heads, but it's the real thing. You know if you're happy or not. You know what's going on inside. You know how you feel. And you probably know, kind of, why you're here. Okay? Whatever it is, whether you get clarity on your why or you don't, just treat other people the way you want to be treated. You're going to be just fine till everything gets clearer for you. And it will. Have confidence. It will. It'll become clear. You'll know why you're here. You'll know what your purpose is, and things are going to get better for you. All right. Well, thank you for joining me. This is Class Bullock Show. Please hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons. And if you have a comment, be sure and comment. The algorithm loves comments. Okay. I mean, that's how I get heard by other people. Even if your comment is, you suck and you don't need to be on here. That's okay, because the algorithm doesn't know if it's positive or negative. It just knows it's a comment. So hit it up there. Hey, if you have a quote you'd like me to address, or you have a question for me, email me at jrobertbullock, jrobertbullock@gmail.com. Thank you, folks. Hope you're back next time.